If you clicked on this, part of you already suspects something, and you've been afraid to say it out loud. So, let me say it for you. You are about to step into a version of your life that you've quietly imagined, but never dared to believe was actually yours. Not someday. Not if things finally calm down. Now, in this season, and the strangest part is that almost no one around you is going to understand it while it's happening. I want you to sit with that for a second. Because if you're honest, you've felt it for a while now, this sense that you were built for more than the small, safe, repeating life you've been living. You've watched people around you settle. You've watched them shrink their dreams down to fit the size of their fear. And every time you tried to do the same, every time you tried to convince yourself that this is enough, stop wanting more, something inside you refused. It wouldn't go quiet. That refusal is not arrogance. It's not restlessness. It's a calling that has been pressing against the walls of your ordinary life, waiting for you to finally answer it. My name is George. I've spent more years than I can count sitting across kitchen tables from people who carried exactly what you're carrying right now. That ache, that hum, that holy dissatisfaction. And I'm going to tell you something I've learned the hard way. Over decades of watching God work in real lives, not theories, the people who exceed every expectation are almost never the ones who looked the part early on. They were the overlooked ones, the late bloomers, the ones who got counted out. And that's exactly why what's about to happen to you is going to surprise everyone, including, maybe, you. So stay with me. Because what I'm about to walk you through isn't motivation. It's a map. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why the very thing that made you feel behind for so long was actually the thing preparing you to leap ahead. Let me name the lie first, though, because it's been sitting on your chest for years, and you've gotten so used to its weight you think it's just who you are. The lie says, if it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to. The lie says, you missed your window. You're too old, or it's too late, or you waited too long, or you made too many wrong turns to ever get back on the road you were supposed to be on. And the cruelest thing about that lie is how reasonable it sounds. It uses your own math against you. You add up the years. You count the chances that came and went. And the number feels like a verdict. But God does not do math the way you do. He's not adding up your wasted time and subtracting it from what's left. He multiplies. He takes the broken pieces and the lost years and the dead ends, and he doesn't discard them. He folds every single one of them into the thing he's building. Nothing in your story is wasted material. The detour was part of the route. You were never off the map. You were on a part of it you couldn't read yet. Let me start where it really starts. Not with success, with waiting. There's a story most people skip right past, and I want to slow down on it, because it's yours more than you know. Long before he ever stood in a palace, before he ever interpreted a single dream for a king, there was a young man named Joseph, sitting in the bottom of a prison cell he did not deserve to be in. Think about where he'd been. He'd had dreams, real ones, vivid ones, the kind that wake you up at night with your heart pounding because some part of you knows they came from somewhere beyond you. He'd seen, in those dreams, a future where he would rise, where even his own family would one day look to him. And what did those dreams get him? Betrayed by his own brothers, sold like cattle, thrown into a pit, hauled off to a foreign country where he didn't speak the language, and then, just when he'd clawed his way back up to something stable, just when he was finally trusted and respected in a powerful man's house, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison anyway. I want you to picture him there. The stone floor, the damp air, the sounds of other forgotten men coughing in the dark. Years passed in that place. Not days, not weeks, years. And here's the part that should stop you cold. At one point, he helped 2 other prisoners. He interpreted their dreams accurately, told one of them he'd be restored to his position, and asked for one simple thing in return when things go well for you. Remember me. And that man walked out, got his life back, and forgot Joseph completely. For 2 more full years. Imagine carrying a promise inside you while the one person who could have helped you forgot you existed. Now here's what I need you to understand, because this is the hinge everything turns on. Joseph wasn't being punished in that cell. He was being prepared. Every year of being overlooked was sharpening something in him that comfort never could have. The patience, the character, the ability to hold power without being corrupted by it. The kind of man who could stand in front of the most powerful ruler in the world and not flinch. That man is not made in a palace. He's made in a prison. And when the moment finally came, when the king needed someone, anyone, who could do what no one else could, Joseph was ready. He went from the lowest place in the kingdom to the second highest seat of power in a single afternoon. One conversation, one door, after 13 years of closed ones. And that's the same thing Scripture means when it talks about a person being set apart. It doesn't mean you're put on a shelf to be admired. It means you're being kept protected, refined, held in reserve for a moment that hasn't arrived yet. The waiting was never the absence of the calling. The waiting was the calling. So let me ask you something. How long have you been in your version of that cell? How many years have you been doing the quiet, faithful, unseen work that nobody claps for? How many times have you watched someone less prepared, less committed, less worn down by the process, get the thing you've been praying for, and you smiled for them on the outside, while something in you whispered, "When, Lord? When is it my turn?" I'm not going to give you a fake timeline. I won't pretend I know the day. But I will tell you this with everything in me. The length of your delay is directly connected to the size of what's coming. People who are being prepared for small things don't get tested this long. You've been in the process this long because what's on the other side of it requires this much depth. They were not wasting your time. They were building your foundation. Here's where it gets real, though, because I don't want to leave this floating in the abstract. Let me bring it down to where you actually live. It's a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. You're standing at the kitchen counter at 6 in the morning, coffee going cold in your hand, and you're scrolling. You know you shouldn't be, but you are, and you see it. Someone you know. Someone who, let's be honest, you never thought had half of what you have. And they just announced the thing. The new job, the new house, the launch, the win, and you put the phone face down on the counter a little too hard, and you stand there in the gray morning light, feeling something you'd be ashamed to admit out loud. Not hatred. Worse, that quiet, hollow question, what's wrong with me? I want to talk to you right there, in that kitchen, in that exact moment. Because there is nothing wrong with you. What you felt was not jealousy at its root. It was recognition. Some part of you knows you were made to carry something significant, and watching someone else step into their moment scrapes against the wound of your own delay. But hear me, their harvest is not your timeline. Their season has nothing to do with the seed God planted in you. You're not behind. You're being grown in a different soil, on a slower clock, for a heavier fruit. The tree that grows fast snaps in the first real storm. The one that's meant to last takes its time pushing roots down where no one can see. Let me tell you about a man I knew. I'll keep his name out of it, but I'll never forget him. Because for years, he was the picture of being stuck. He drove the same delivery route for almost 2 decades. Same streets, same houses, same dogs barking at the same fences. He used to tell me, half joking, that the route knew him better than his own kids did. And every single morning before that truck turned over, he'd sit in the driver's seat with his hands on the wheel and pray not for the route to change, but for him to be useful right where he was. He learned every customer's name. He noticed when an elderly woman didn't pick up her packages 2 days in a row, and he knocked. And he was the one who found her after she'd fallen. He carried groceries up for the young single mom on the 3rd floor. He prayed with a man through his cracked screen door who was about to lose everything. For 19 years it looked like nothing was happening, and then his company started a community initiative and needed someone to lead it, someone the neighborhoods already trusted. Someone with a real face and a real reputation on those streets. There was exactly one name that came up. He went from the truck to a role he didn't even know existed, leading something that's now touched thousands of families. 19 years of faithfulness in the invisible place. And then one door. Just like Joseph. Sound familiar? Here's what most people miss about exceeding expectations. They think it's about doing something extraordinary. It's not. It's about being extraordinarily faithful in the ordinary thing, for longer than makes sense. The breakthrough is almost never a lightning bolt out of the blue. It's the sudden visibility of 1,000 quiet, hidden choices that finally get their moment in the light. And I think you needed to hear that today. Because I think you've been measuring your life by the size of the splash, when God has been measuring it by the depth of the roots. Let me put you somewhere else for a second. It's late. The dishes are done. The kids, if you've got them, are finally asleep. The house has gone still in that way it only does after 10 o'clock. And you're sitting at the edge of your bed. And you're not crying, exactly, but there's a pressure behind your eyes that's been there all day. You did everything right today. You showed up. You were patient when you wanted to snap. You worked the job, kept the promises, carried the weight, and nobody said thank you. And in the quiet, the question comes up the way it always does at that hour. Does any of this matter? Is anyone keeping track? Or am I just spending my one life being faithful to things that will never notice I was here? I want to answer that question for you, because I think it's the real one underneath everything else. Yes, someone is keeping track. Not the boss who overlooked you. Not the people who took your steadiness for granted. Heaven has been writing down what the world forgot to applaud. Every unseen act of faithfulness. Every time you held it together when it would have been easier to fall apart. Every quiet prayer you whispered when you weren't sure anyone was listening, it was all recorded. None of it fell to the floor. And there is coming a day when the books get opened, and what was done in secret gets rewarded in the open. The world rewards the loud. God rewards the faithful. And those are almost never the same people on the same day. But give it time, and watch who's still standing. There are messages that pass through your eyes, and there are messages that pass through your spirit. If something in you recognized itself while watching, don't dismiss it. That is the Spirit confirming what was already written. The secret protocol carries 7 keys that unveil what heaven deposited in you before you ever arrived, things no one around you has ever been able to name. It comes with the full audiobook for your moments of prayer, silence, and encounter with God. And you also receive the Awakening Map, the guide that illuminates the 5 seasons of spiritual awakening, revealing with precision exactly where you are and what comes next. You can access it through the QR code on your screen or through the link pinned in the first comment, but only for a limited time. Don't let this moment pass without a response. Now let me say something that might be harder to hear. Part of why this season has felt so lonely is that you've been waiting for permission from people who can't give it. You've been showing your dreams to family members who love you, but can't see past the version of you they've always known. You've been quietly hoping a boss, a friend, a parent would finally look at you and say, "Yes, I see it too. Go." And it hasn't come. And that silence has felt like a verdict. It isn't. Let me tell you why. Go back to that prison cell with me for a moment, but look at it differently this time. Do you know what Joseph did not have? He didn't have a single person on the outside championing him. The one man who could have spoken his name forgot him. His family thought he was as good as dead. He had no network, no platform, no advocate. What he had was a gift God placed in him, and a character God built in him. And when the moment came, those two things did all the talking. He didn't need permission from the people around him. He needed readiness for the door that only God could open. And that's where you are. You keep waiting for the people in the boat with you to confirm your calling. But here's the truth. The people in your boat are not the ones who hand out your assignment. Sometimes, the very people closest to you are the last ones who will be able to see it, precisely because they're too close. A prophet isn't honored in his own hometown. The people who knew you when will always struggle to see the who you're becoming. That's not their failure, and it's not yours. It's just the nature of the thing. Don't take it personally. Take it as confirmation that you've outgrown the size of the room you've been waiting for applause in. You don't need them to clap. You need to keep walking. And here's something I've watched play out so many times I'd stake my life on it. The closer you get to the door, the quieter the encouragement gets, and the louder the discouragement gets. It's almost like a law. When you were nowhere near your breakthrough, everybody had advice. Everybody had an opinion. The noise was constant. But the closer you get to the real thing, the actual assignment, the door only God can open, the more isolated it starts to feel. Because fewer and fewer people can walk with you into a place they've never been. Don't mistake that thinning crowd for abandonment. The people fall away because the path narrows. And the path narrows because it's leading somewhere specific. Wide roads lead to crowded, common places. The narrow path is the one almost nobody's willing to walk. And that's exactly why so few arrive where it goes. You're not alone because you're forsaken. You're alone because you're being singled out. Let me give you a sign, something real you can hold on to in the days ahead. So you know you're not making this up. When the moment of breakthrough is near, things often get harder before they get better. The pressure tightens. The opposition gets louder. The doubts come in waves right when you least expect them. Most people read that as a signal to quit. They think the increased resistance means they're on the wrong path. It's the opposite. You don't get fierce resistance over a destination that doesn't matter. The enemy of your soul doesn't waste energy on a future that isn't a threat. If everything in your life seems to be conspiring to make you give up right now, lean in close, because that is very often the labor pains right before the birth. The night is loudest just before the dawn breaks it open. I learned that one in my own life, and I'll tell you about it plainly, because I don't want you to think I'm standing on some mountain I never had to climb. Years ago, I went through a season where I was sure God had forgotten me. I'd given my life to serving Him, and on paper, everything was falling apart anyway. I remember sitting in my car in an empty parking lot one night, long after I should have gone home, just gripping the steering wheel with both hands. The dashboard lights were the only thing glowing. And I prayed the kind of prayer you only pray when you've got nothing left to perform, no fancy words. Just, I don't understand what you're doing. And I'm so tired of waiting. I didn't get an answer that night. No voice. No warmth. Nothing. I drove home in silence, feeling like a fool. But looking back now, I can see it. That season I thought was God's absence was actually the deepest preparation of my entire life. Everything I do now, every person I've been able to reach, every word that's landed in someone's spirit at the exact moment they needed it, all of it, was forged in that silent, lonely stretch I begged him to end early. If he'd answered my prayer on my timeline, I would have been launched into something I wasn't built to carry yet. The delay didn't deny my destiny. The delay was the only thing that made my destiny survivable. So if you're in the silence right now, if you've prayed, and the heavens feel like brass, I am not going to insult you by telling you it's easy. I'll tell you the truer thing. The silence is not empty. Something is being built in you, under the surface, in the dark, that could not be built any other way. And the day it surfaces, the people who watched you struggle are going to be stunned. They'll call it luck. They'll call it overnight. You and God will know it was 13 years in a cell. Let me bring in one more picture, because I don't want you to walk away thinking the calling is only about big public moments. There was a woman in a crowd one day. Scripture tells us almost nothing about her, except the thing that defined her whole existence. For 12 years she'd been bleeding, suffering, isolated, treated as untouchable, spending everything she had on people who couldn't help her. 12 years of being the woman everyone stepped around. And one day she heard that a teacher and healer was passing through, and the crowd was thick, and she had no status to part it, no name to get her to the front. So she did the only thing she could. She got down low, and she pushed through the forest of legs, and she reached out one trembling hand and touched the very edge of his garment as he passed, and she was healed in an instant. And he stopped in the middle of a thronging crowd, and he asked who touched him. Not to shame her, to see her, to call her daughter in front of everyone who had spent 12 years pretending she didn't exist. That's what your moment is going to feel like. 12 years invisible, and then one reach, and then being seen fully, finally, publicly, by the only one whose seeing actually counts. She didn't need the crowd to make room for her. She just needed to refuse to stay in the back. And notice what she touched. Not his hand, not his face. The hem, the lowest, most overlooked part of the garment. The part that drags in the dust. She didn't have access to the front. She had access to the edge. And the edge was enough. I want you to hear that if you've been telling yourself you don't have enough resources, enough connections, enough standing, enough of whatever everyone else seems to have been handed, you don't need the front. You need the edge. You need the smallest possible point of contact with the thing God's been trying to hand you, and the faith to reach for it from wherever you actually are. She reached from the floor, from the dust, from the back of the crowd with empty hands and a worn-out body and 12 years of being told no. And it moved everything. Your reach doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be real. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really answer it, not just nod along. What's the one thing you've been waiting for permission to reach for? The dream you've kept folded up so small that even saying it out loud feels embarrassing. Because I think today is the day you stop asking the crowd to part and you start pushing through. You are about to exceed every expectation, not because you're going to suddenly become someone new, but because you're finally going to stop hiding who you've always been. The world isn't going to get it while it's happening. They didn't get Joseph in the prison. They didn't get my friend on the truck. They didn't get the woman crawling through the crowd. The ones being prepared for something extraordinary almost always look ordinary, right up until the moment they don't. Your moment is closer than the length of your waiting has led you to believe. The cell door has a hinge. The route has an end. The garment is within reach. And the hand that's been holding you in the dark this whole time was never holding you back. It was holding you ready. So before you go, I want you to do something for me. And I read every one of these. In the comments, tell me one thing. What is the dream you've kept folded up too small, the one you've never said out loud, because you were afraid no one would understand it? Just one sentence. Name it, because the moment you finally say it where it can be witnessed is the moment it stops being a secret you're ashamed of and starts being a seed you're planting. I'll be reading, and I'll be praying over every single one. You've been faithful in the prison long enough. Get ready for the palace. It's not a question of if anymore. It's only a question of which ordinary Tuesday God decides to turn the key.